Well, our next guest appeared to have it all. A business turning over some £70 million, a lavish lifestyle and a young family. But suddenly his world fell apart, catapulting him into a completely different direction. He's written a book about his experiences.
And the book's got a great title, Filthy Rich, the property tycoon who struck real gold. It's the true story of an ambitious Asian businessman who, through losing everything, discovered new priorities and riches in life, notably the true value of his family, his friends and his faith, all of which he'd neglected in his quest to become filthy rich.
Indeed. Well, morning and welcome to Manoj Raithatha. Thank you very much for coming in, Manoj. Great to have you here. Especially, I've been reading the book all the weekend, so to meet you now is very exciting. So it's a long book. It's a complicated story. We're inevitably not going to be able to get to every detail of it. But you led a very colourful life, growing up as a Hindu while at school in Kenya, becoming a Christian there. But like many youngsters, like myself actually, by the time you went to secondary school, other things began to preoccupy you. What was pulling you away from your faith then?
Well, I think what was pulling away me from my faith was the fact that in our family circumstances, things were not going well financially. My father had moved to East Africa to join his brother in the family business, but they were expecting to be making a good amount of money, but there were complications. And when I saw those kind of issues within the family, I looked to money as being the answer to all our problems.
Right.
But at the same time, you also talk frequently in the book about these key figures from your youth, the prep school headmaster, for example, or whatever. Tell us a bit about that, because you keep referring back to him.
Yes, well, I went to a Christian school in Kenya, and it was there that I first heard the Christian message, and I was totally blown away by what I was hearing about Jesus, the fact that Jesus would die for all humanity. And I found myself debating with my very devout Hindu father. I said, look, there's something in this Jesus character, because he hasn't just died for one tribe or one nation, he's died for everyone. So we had some very interesting discussions.
Why did your parents send you to what is ostensibly a Christian school as Hindus?
Well, most Hindus do believe that all roads lead to God, so they had absolutely no issues. I mean, the primary reason they sent me and my sister there is because it was an English school, and the plan was that we would one day leave Nairobi and come back to the UK.
Okay. Well, you did move back to the UK. You went to a Catholic boarding school, but you left Christianity behind again there.
Well, I didn't really encounter anything. I mean, I went to Mass every Sunday, but I didn't experience anything. And this is not an attack on Catholicism, because there were some wonderful people there. But I just got a sense, I mean, now when I look back on it, that we were doing more religion there than relationship. And when I was at the school in Kenya, this man was totally on fire for God. He was reflecting the love of Christ, and that resonated with me. It never went away.
But one of your English teachers at the secondary school in England did inspire you. Tell us a bit about him.
Well, I think he inspired me because he encouraged me to pursue my passion. I mean, at that point, I was working in Woolworths because I had a big spending habit. I used to spend money because I wanted friends, so I was always generous in the pub. And so I was thinking about pursuing economics and business and accounting and all that kind of stuff. And yet this teacher was opening my eyes to a whole different worldview. He said, what about passion? What about trying to find exactly what your calling is and pursuing that? And
then that led to the fact that you did better in English A-level than economics A-level, and you were rather cross about that.
I was rather cross. I mean, the reality is I still wanted to study economics at Bath University, but I didn't do well enough. But I did well in English, and so I ended up actually doing an English degree in the end.
And then that led on to script writing, and so you end up as a script writer.
That's right. It was never really a plan to become a script writer. I ended up becoming a teacher, teaching English. But I quickly discovered that teaching English wasn't my forte. And so I quickly moved into drama teaching. And then I just got excited about the fact that, look, here I was a British Asian in the UK, facing all kinds of issues, being born here, but, my culture's all a bit mixed up. Identity issues. And so I wrote a play with my wife for fun, really, but it did end up winning a Fringe First to Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it seemed as if it was very, very successful. You clearly got a gift of communication because you use that in all kinds of ways, like when you were working in the furniture store and selling the three-piece suites, etc. You became their top salesman.
Yes, well, that's right. I can't say I'm very good at communicating academically. I've always struggled. I mean, I've got by. But I suppose we all have our giftings. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy the company of other people. And that's all I did in the furniture shop. I wasn't really selling furniture. I was just having good conversations. I quickly realised that if you didn't pressure sell and just took an interest in people and served them very, very good coffee, they would sign on the dotted line.
Something I was just thinking Middle East traders could learn a lot about, because I'm sure you've been to the Middle East sometime, been down some of these malls where you only got to walk past the shop. If you dare to glance in the window, you're dragged inside, and in the end, reluctantly, you have to tear yourself away, and sometimes with quite an argument. But it's not the best way to sell, is it?
Absolutely.
But you're there, and that's when you were so successful at that. That's when you started to get the taste for money.
That's right. So I suppose I'd gone to university, I'd studied English, I'd left that sort of business world behind. But there I was in this furniture store with the prospect of making commission money, and quite large amounts. And then my excitement, my desire, my passion for money started to come back.
And explain how that then moved into the property business, because that's where you start to make the real money.
Yes, well, what happened is I was going out with a girl for 5 years, and that ended. And that really, really shook me up, because I thought, well, look, here's the lady that I'm going to marry. And it didn't work out that way. And so with that relationship breaking down, I quickly moved into thinking, reflecting on all those things that I was that were stirring when I was younger about making money. And so I thought, let me, buy my first property. I mean, what's the point of renting when you can actually buy? Why did I want to throw all that money away? And then I got the taste of it.
And then you set up this amazing business just at the time when the property market was booming. And you were really, really managing to find a sort of golden thread through that.
That's right. I think one thing that's happened in my life, I don't think I'm particularly good at most things, but one thing I realised is actually if you do something at the right time, it's all about timing, then you can be quite successful. When we wrote the play that won the Fringe First, it wasn't a great play. But it was the timing that was correct. Goodness gracious me had come out. It was the same with property. Property prices were going up. I invested in a few properties, sold them quickly, and started to make a lot of money.
And this is when you started buying off-plan, as they say. You were as the designers had got planning permission to build a block of flats, you were saying, well, I'll definitely take some of those flats, and then you sold them on. By the time they built, the price has already gone up.
That's right. I mean, I started investing in properties that were quite old, and then I suddenly realised, look, I'm not cut out for painting and decorating and maintaining these. Why not just go for new build property? Buy the properties from plan. And the wonderful thing is that because these contracts can be sold on, even before the property is built, I could flip on the contracts to investors and make some money in the middle. And that's what happened. We started to buy in huge quantities in a very short amount of time.
Okay. Well, we're going to pause here, but let me ask you, what do you think is the definition of success? Because we're going to throw this out to listeners in a moment or two. What would be your definition of success?
Well, my definition of success today is dramatically different to what it was back then. To be humble and to be obedient to God would be my definition of success.
Why not start your day with Inspirational Breakfast, Monday to Fridays from 7 a.m, only on Premier Christian Radio, where faith comes to life.